This episode is brought to you by TickPick, where smart fans buy and sell tickets. Check out TickPick for the best ticket prices for your next game, concert, or event, and use promo code PODCAST to save $10 off any order over $49. That's TickPick.com. Promo code PODCAST.
Welcome to the Fantasy Football Profit Podcast, hosted by Craig Phillips and Jeff Torrey. Visit us at fantasyfootballprofit.com. And now your hosts, Craig and Jeff.
Welcome everyone to the Fantasy Football Profit Podcast. I'm Craig Phillips, joined as always by Jeff Torrey. And Jeff, we got a little Panthers-Eagles recap tonight. I think this one will probably be relatively quick for everyone. Again, another Thursday night game that, it came down to the end, but I don't know. I'm just not terribly interested, I guess, in these teams. I guess you could say that, but there's a couple stories to come out of it, so I guess we'll get right into it. What about Cam Newton, Jeff? This is kind of what we thought he was, I think, right?
Yeah, I can talk all day about how he's not the greatest quarterback in the world, but, the guy still pulled out a decent week because he was able to run for a good amount of yards and found the end zone. So even though he threw 3 picks, the guy ends up with over 20 points in fantasy. So, if he continues to play like this, the question is, can you plug and play him no matter what?
If he's going to score 22.7, if we're basing it off 6-point touchdown league, so even the 4-point touchdown league, he scored 20.7. So if he's going to get you 20 points and he throws 3 interceptions, that's about the worst you're going to get probably. And if he continues that, it might not look pretty in the actual, NFL standards, but fantasy-wise, we're fine with it. And the reason it's okay is the rushing numbers are back. 11 carries, 71 yards, and a touchdown.
Yeah, do you expect those numbers? Because obviously in the beginning of the year, he wasn't able to rush that well. Are you expecting those numbers to stay up from what you saw, or do you think that this is the last couple games he's relying on his legs because he hasn't been able to play quite as well?
I'm just wondering, maybe he's feeling healthier. Panthers have realized that to be good, they need to have him run the ball. That's why they were so good 2 years ago. So I think it might continue. Unless he gets hurt, which I guess is always a possibility with Cam, but I think it's something that might be here to stay, even though I really didn't see it happening this year. He's been better since he's run the ball a little bit, and I don't know. We'll see how much it continues. They have no other running game but him. If we want to look at those numbers, Cam led the team with 71 yards. Second on the team was McCaffrey with 8 yards off 4 carries. And then Samuel 1 for 8, Whitaker 1 for -3, and Jonathan Stewart had 8 carries for -4 yards.
Well,
brutal.
That's pretty crazy. I don't know what that exactly tells me because, do they have a lack of faith in the rest of the running backs? Cam Newton, obviously, these aren't, maybe 1 or 2, but they're not all planned runs. He's scrambling. But other than that, what do you have, 14 rushing attempts, period, for the game? Especially when you have Stewart and McCaffrey, you think that you would at least give each one of those guys, 10 carries to see if they can get something going. Is it the line? What was your take on that?
It's hard to say. I think the line really wasn't letting them get anywhere. Stewart, these players are better than that. Stewart's better than -4. They're just not giving him much room.
-4 is just so bad. I can't get over that.
Yeah, it's not normal. It's just not normal. That's the line's not giving him. There's no way he's going -4 unless he's getting knocked around in the backfield all the time. And then they just use McCaffrey out of the backfield all game. You get catching passes, 10 catches for 56 yards. So in PPR, he dominated in PPR today. And
yeah,
probably see that going forward.
Yeah, and he didn't have a very impressive game, but if you did have PPR, all of a sudden he looks like a stud. Even though only 56 yards, receiving with that touchdown, which kind of, saved his game. I guess that would be the bright spot, is the receiving aspect of this team. Kelvin Benjamin, 9 receptions for, almost 100 yards, 99 yards. So he pulls out a decent game, even though he couldn't find the end zone. And then, Funchess and Dixon are kind of, hanging around there. They got you 3 to 4 points, but nothing special.
Yeah, Funchess was kind of back to what Funchess was before he caught touchdowns the last 2 weeks. So maybe everyone was a little premature to anoint him a top 25 receiver, which I don't know. I think I did. You might have this week too, but the usage was there, but just not today. It's just a little bit different of a game. I mean, Benjamin had 13 targets, and I don't even think that led the team. I believe, if I'm right, McCaffrey had 14 targets. So they were just throwing the ball to McCaffrey, basically, for the most part. So it's just kind of I think a fluky type game for Funchess in that regard.
Dip and dunks. But anyway, to the other side of the ball, which
the actual winning team.
Yeah, the Eagles actually have some guys that you need to kind of take another look at because, maybe not the biggest names in the NFL. But as far as fantasy goes, we start off with Wentz, which once again turns in a nice performance. I mean, at what point are you just, you feel safe enough to actually start this guy on your team?
I think it's here. He's a top 10 guy for us now, and I think he's a top 10 guy going forward. Might be back into the top 10, but that's still that's a starter there.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been every week been great.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, his numbers, 3 touchdowns, obviously that's always good to see. He hasn't been able to put up, the kind of yardage that would carry him, even if he didn't have quite as many touchdowns. But every week it seems like he pulls something out that's definitely worth, definitely startable.
And LeGarrette Blount, I mean, I guess he did decent, 14 for 67, no touchdowns, but they're not going to go away from him. He's going to be getting that, I think, the rest of the year here. And I'm not a fan of it, but if you have to plug him into your lineup, I think you're probably okay. But then the rest of the receivers, it's just a weird game. Like Ertz only had 2 catches, but they were both touchdowns. So, I mean,
you got to love that once again, the guy is turning into, one of the best 3 tight ends out there.
Yep. I mean, it is. Even when a down week, he's able, if he getting those touchdowns, he's worthwhile. That's just, he hasn't failed to, has he had a bad week yet, fantasy-wise?
No,
I don't even think he has
been the most consistent tight end. He hasn't had the top-end production like a Kelsey or Gronk, but he has been the most consistent. I don't think he's dipped below 8 points yet.
No, he has. Looking at it right now, so standard scoring, he's at 9.3, 9.7, 9.5, 8.1, 12.1, 13.8.
Ooh, my memory serves me right.
Yeah, consistent as can be. That is, in today's tight end landscape, he's probably our number 3 going forward. I mean, he's always going to be behind Gronk and Kelsey, but that's still impressive.
Yeah, and then the other wide receivers, Alshon put up a, kind of an Alshon game. He got 71 yards off 4 catches. Obviously not the biggest game, but if you're playing him, it's no big deal. The guy I always kind of always want to see more, but Aguilar, how are you actually viewing this guy? Because he is up and down, but he's been putting up some decent numbers.
He has. It's just that, I mean, week 1 he had the 6 catches for 86. He hasn't had more than 4 catches since then, but he has 4 touchdowns in 6 games. I mean, it's something to watch. I'm still not putting him in my starting lineups because the volume just really isn't there yet, but I mean, 7 targets is pretty decent. Only 3 behind Jeffrey. I mean, I'm not trusting it yet, but if I see a couple more touchdowns going forward, you could probably play him in these bye weeks coming up and feel okay about it, that you might have a chance at, getting a decent score. And maybe at worst, the worst you're going to get is maybe 5-6 points, which if that's what you get, you can probably be okay with that because he's had, out of 4 games, he's had over 50 yards 4 of the 6 games too. So that's pretty solid. I don't know. Do you feel comfortable with it at all? I can't wrap my mind around putting Nelson Aguilar in my starting lineup.
Yeah, I always have my reservations about the guy because he is so up and down. But I mean, he is getting to the point where you're hitting the kind of the dog days where you have injuries and bye weeks. I kind of agree with you. At some point, you have to look at him as as kind of your top waiver ad when you really need a wide receiver. And I wouldn't feel great about it, but I know that there's way worse situations I could be in. And I can see myself picking him up and just hoping for a kind of a high point game for him.
Who would you be starting, Aguilar or Sammy Watkins?
Sammy Watkins in the next, one of these next 2 games, I think I would go Aguilar.
Until you see something from Sammy, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. I just heard something about, Sammy Watkins was interviewed and said he doesn't know if his production is going to, go up from here or something. Like, it even sounds like he's playing the part of like the broken man or the the guy down in the dumps. So that's just one more kind of a sign that he's kind of slowing down this season.
Yeah, I'm not too excited about it, but I have a little bit of hope left. Very little, but a little bit.
Hey, one last question before we end this episode is, obviously we always talk about fantasy, so we're wondering, or we like to obviously focus on what they've done on the field, what numbers they can put up, statistics, but obviously the actual game and the actual wins do play a part in how these guys are used. Do you, with Philly actually pulling off this, after Carolina has been playing so well in the last few games, do you think that this changes any of the players we were just talking about?
I'm just surprised Philadelphia's 5-1. This is crazy to me.
Right.
And
they're marching towards the playoffs very, very quickly. I mean, do you think after losing this game, do you think that anything's going to change with Cam? Do you think?
No, I think they kept it close with another. They were both 4-1 teams, so they kept it close, had a chance to win. It's a home game, yes, so you want to win, but I mean, I don't know. It's with Cam. Those 3 picks worry me, but I think they've realized they need to run him the ball more, and I think that's how they're going to win games. And to win games, they're going to have him doing something on the ground. I really think that's their key. And if he can still do it, that's going to be how they become successful the rest of this year. So they need to keep that going, I think. And if they want to win games, they're going to keep it going, and I think that makes Cam valuable. He's much more valuable than I thought. Because it's going to be Cam Newton. I think it's going to be McCaffrey for sure. Those two are going to be the guaranteed guys every week for the Panthers if they want to win. And then obviously Benjamin Funchess, one of the two will go off every week. But if they need to win games, it's going to be between Newton and McCaffrey.
Yeah, I completely agree. And on the other side of the ball, Eagles, who's a guy that you think you can actually rely on, or who impressed you today? And then what's a guy where?
I say the only guy I'm really comfortable with is Wentz at this point. Ertz, obviously. Ertz and Wentz. Those are the only two. I guess you can play blunt, but I hope you don't have to. You know what I mean?
Are you souring on, Alshon Jeffrey at all?
I am. I actually am quite a bit. Because even this game was okay. 4 for 71's fine, but when you look back now, it's just not very productive. 2 touchdowns on the year. He had the second game was great, 7 for 92 and a touchdown. Other than that, though, this was his second best game yardage-wise. And it's his only 3 of 6 games he's been above 40 yards. It's kind of, and he's had, looking at the catch numbers, take away that week 2 game, he's only had either 3 or 4 catches every game. I think it feels like to Wentz, Alshon's just another one of the guys out there. There's no, urgency to get him the ball. It's not like, we need to feed Alshon the ball. He's our number one guy. I don't think that's that at all for them. Alshon's just the same pretty much as Nelson Aguilar and Torrey Smith, but obviously he's a little more talented, so it shines through a little bit, but it's not that way in how they want to distribute the ball out there.
Yeah, and they're winning, like you were talking about, 5-1, and they're winning without dominating offensively the ball games. I feel like they spread the ball around. They don't care who gets the touchdowns. And you see it with, how they rush the ball. 4 different guys got rushes. And we joke because, Carolina, 8 rushes was the most by a guy. And then everyone else had, I think McCaffrey was the next one with 4. Where, this one, Wentz had 6, carries. Blunt had 14. Barner had 5. Then you even, get another guy 2 carries. Like they're just distributing the ball all over the field. And then the same thing with you passing. You saw it too. Ertz is, one of their best receivers out there, tight end, and they only, they targeted him 5 times, but at the same time he only got 2 catches. It so happened that they're touchdowns, but at the same time, they do not discriminate. They don't care who is catching the ball. He's just giving it to the open guy, which will help you win games. But at the same time, you take that into account when you're trying to pick up guys for bye weeks.
Well, I think that's it for this game, but one last question. Who is your pickup between Darren McFadden and Alfred Morris? Who's your guy? What do you think it's going to be?
Ooh,
with Zeke out now. Maybe Zeke out. We'll find out for sure if he appeals or not.
In a weird way, I mean, a lot of people are going to go both ways, I guess, on this one. McFadden scares me the most because he's been a healthy scratch, but it would make the most sense to give him a ton of carries and then just continue using Morris in the role he's been accustomed to. I think it's going to be closer to 50-50, but I think Morris is safer, but I think McFadden has a bit better upside. It's only because they haven't been playing him, so I'm kind of scared of the whole situation, to be honest.
Yeah, I am too. I for some reason I lean McFadden, even though he's been inactive. I don't know why. Just feels like it feels like he's going to be the guy in a way. I don't know.
I know. I'm going off of nothing.
It makes this very difficult but it makes it so difficult because if Zeke is suspended for these 6 games here, one of these two could be like a potential season-changing type running back.
But
we just don't know which one it is right now.
I mean, the last couple of weeks have given you a lot of different running backs to take a look at. I mean, with the AP being traded, now you have AP in one team. You don't know when David Johnson's coming back. That frees things up for Kamara and Ingram, down in New Orleans. And now you have, this situation coming about with Zeke. I mean, and not to mention, obviously, you have a few others on top of that. I mean, it really is. This is the moment where your decision, and you're basing off of not a lot, is going to really determine your playoff run.
So should I assume you're making a waiver claim on Saturday night in our league?
It would be smart to assume that. And what's even worse is, I think it was just 2 weeks ago I dropped McFadden because I didn't see it going anywhere to try to pick up some other guys that could help me on buys. So now I'm kicking myself.
McFadden and Morris are both out there. And you have the most fab budget.
Yeah.
So don't screw it up.
Yeah, right. Thank you. Those kind words.
All right. I think that's going to do it for today's show. I'll be back Sunday night. Jeff won't be back for a little while now. So everyone can say goodbye to Jeff for a few weeks. We'll see him when he comes back. Maybe the whole NFL has changed by then. Maybe we're not even caring about any of these players anymore. So
going to a land where football is better than football. So I'll have to try to convert a few of these people over to the dark side.
We'll see if that can happen. Is any games out there when you're there?
I don't think so. It'd be cool though.
All right, we'll talk to you guys next time.